invaders only for a game, just for fun. But I think that adding some metrics for Prometheus can be useful also for a production environment. And finally, I will show you the roadmap of this project that I want to proceed in the time. So things that you should know before attending to this talk. I'm not a game developer. Kubeinvaders is a game, so please don't take me too seriously. And yes, some feature of Kubeinvaders can be made with few lines of bash, for example, but it's not funny like using a game for do chaos engineering. So this is a standard definition for chaos engineering. So is a discipline. Is a discipline to test how a system is resilient against turbulence and how the system are built to be rock solid in production environment. So I reported these two links for chaos engineering definition. I suggest to you to see them. So this is an example, a simple example for killing all pods in my namespaces of Kubernetes. In this case, this example is for OpenShift. There are projects instead only namespace, but it's the same for Kubernetes. And this is a little example, is composed by a few lines of bash. And the result is that in all projects, all pods are killed. This is another example, is a little bit more complex. In this case, the pods are killed in a random way, so randomly. Also, this is a little bit a chaos engineering tool, but it's just few lines of bash. So this works, but I think it's still a little bit boring. So for this reason, I made this tool since 1 year ago. This is my colleague that plays with Kubeinvaders. I made this tool just for fun. So in this case, it's like Space Invaders. So the aliens in the previous version of this tool, the aliens are only a pod. We will see in the presentation that in the new version of Kubeinvaders, the aliens are also Kubernetes worker nodes. So this way, I think it's much better to do chaos engineering for many reasons. Also because even the developers can approach to this discipline, because I think it's not only for DevOps. Okay. This is how Kubeinvaders looks like. So it's a simple interface. There are the aliens that are the pod or nodes, and some useful information that you can see during the game. Okay. So what Kubeinvaders does? Okay, it kills the pod, but also performs chaos experiments against Kubernetes worker nodes. We will see how we can customize this functionality, and I think this functionality is very useful because you can prepare a custom chaos engineering experiments to test how your cluster is resilient. There are also other features. For example, it can check best practice configured in the deployment into Kubernetes. I used a tool made from Stackrocks that is totally open source, is a kubelinter. So you can see if your pod are configured correctly, or if you have to do something to improve the configuration by a security side or high availability side. For example, if you don't insert the readiness probe inside your development, the deployment is a problem. Okay. you can see the logs of pod, and finally you can expose Prometheus metrics in order to make sense to this tool. So I think there are three main use cases for this tool. The first one is test how your cluster is resilient. So, for example, your pod take to time to start, or your node pull the Docker images slowly, for example. So with this tool, you can you can test this kind of performance objects. It collects chaos metrics, and is important because the chaos metrics of Kubeinvaders are useful if you compare them to other metrics for other services. For example, we will see that the chaos metrics of Kubeinvaders are useful with the black box exporter metrics, because you can see if a service is not working, but why? For example, because I killed all pods, but maybe I can configure better the horizontal scale up for Kubernetes. Okay, the third reason is that encourage the developer to conduct chaos experiments even during the development phase. Okay, just a little definition of pods, because I think it's useful to understand why I decided to use this kind of way to kill the pods, because pods are ephemeral objects. So it's important to understand that if you use something like Kubernetes, you can kill pods without stop the service, because the pods are ephemeral, and the pod should be floating between nodes of the cluster. In this period, some people used this project for fun and for demos. So there is a little community that use this project and contribute and make some pull requests to the GitHub project. This is an overview of the special input keys. We will see during the presentation these functionalities. And as you can see, there are two new features that I added in this period. So let's start to see the GUI interface of this game. There are the connection status to Kubernetes. This is important because, for example, if you insert a token for the service account that doesn't have the right for access to pods or kill the pods, you will see 403 error code, for example. On the left side, you have the URL of Kubernetes cluster and the current namespace and the number of pods running in your cluster. With the KA, you can start the automatic pilot, and it's important, the automatic pilot, because you can start many instances of Kubeinvaders. It's not a problem. You can start multiple instances of Kubeinvaders, start the automatic pilot, and make a very aggressive chaos engineering test to your cluster. This is the help with all feature that I made recently for the game. This is a new feature. Is if you move the spaceship over an alien, you can see the logs of the pod. Okay, with the key R, you can refresh this log like a tail, can be useful for example, for developers that make some experiments on the particular namespace. With the K, you can start a kubelint analysis. In this example, this is there is this container that has some problem of relating to a best practice. In this case, is a problem with the read-only root file system tutor. In this slide, pressing W, you can show worker node of your cluster, only worker node, not master node. You can see for large cluster in this version of Kubeinvaders, you will see a subset of the entire number of nodes, because the max number that I show in this version is 15 nodes. In this case, with W, you will see the nodes on the screen, and you can kill them, shooting to them, but not like when you kill the pod. You can't kill the node, but you can start a chaos experiment that we will see during this presentation. And the default chaos experiment you can make against the node is launch a job that launches stress ng process that cause an IG load average of inside the node. This is my preferred feature. Is if you press N, you can jump between namespace. When you install Kubeinvaders, you can select a subset of namespace that you want to stress. And with N, you can jump between this namespace and kill the pod in a particular namespace. This is a tutorial for install the tool. It's very simple. You can clone the code. You have to create a namespace named the Kubeinvaders in this example. And I decided to provide only the installation with Helm, because in the previous versions there was many kind of installation, but I decided it's better to provide just one strategy. So Helm is the better one, and you can install the chart with Helm, but you have to specify an array of namespace you want to stress, the target namespace to install, in which to install Kubeinvaders, and the ingress host name is important because it exposes the web interface with the game, but it also is an endpoint that you can call to make actions against your cluster. Okay, we will see more details because Kubeinvaders is composed by a game part and a backend part made with OpenResty and some tons of Lua code. This is the installation for OpenShift, but you can use also Helm, is not a problem. But if you want to install with a template for OpenShift, you can use this guide that is also reported in the README of the project. This is for I made this feature for the presentation or demos, but also because sometimes you have to tune the position of the alliance for make a better chaos engineering test. So there are these three parameters: the alien proximity that is used for manage the distance between aliens, the hit limit that if 0 you can shot with much speed, but if you want to make this game more difficult, you can increase this number. And the update time is the second before update pod status. I would like to make sense of this tool. So I added a custom Prometheus exporter, and this is the configuration for scraping this matrix. It's very simple. So in your Prometheus configuration, you can add a job name like Kubeinvaders, and it's important the targets. In this case, I will reach directly the Kubernetes service for scrape this matrix. If you have many instances of Kubeinvaders in a different namespaces, is not a problem. You can add more objects to the array of targets. Okay. So, which metrics are exposed by Prometheus? For now, are only 4 metrics. So the total number of Chaos job executed per node. So this is the Chaos Engineering experiments that I mentioned before. So Chaos Engineering, Chaos experiment against node. So load average, network problem, disk disk I/O, and so on. There are also another metric for the total of Chaos node job, the total of deleted pods, and the deleted pods per namespace. This is important because if you have to make some analysis, it's important to know which namespace are stressed in the last 10 minutes, for example. This is the Grafana dashboard that we will see during the demo. You can download the Grafana dashboard from GitHub, but I think I will publish in the official Grafana dashboard repository. Also, this is another panel, are 2 panels, one for Chaos job count, and the other one is for counting deleted pod per namespaces. This is the roadmap. I would like to add more Chaos experiments. I just some days ago I decided to write the entire game in pure JavaScript, because in this way it will be totally open source. At the moment, Kubeinvaders is I wrote the entire game in JavaScript right today, and so you will see in the GitHub repo that Kubeinvaders is composed. You can install Kubeinvaders in 2 different versions. The legacy version that I made with a game framework named Default, and the new version that is entirely open source. So has been written with JavaScript and the backend part with OpenResty. And I would like to add more Prometheus metrics. Okay. So this is the GitHub repo. You can open issues if you want, or a suggestion. And another important thing that we in Substance we are hiring. So you can check our website, and if you want to, you can send your curriculum to recruitment@substance.com. We focused in open source technologies. We have a great DevOps area and software development area. So if you want, send us a curriculum. Thank you. So now there is the demo section. This is a shell with a get spot of this Kubeinvaders demo namespace. This is the legacy version that I mentioned before, and the simple behavior of the game is that you can kill the pods with playing with game. You can see the name of the pods, or start a kubelinter analysis. this way. And this is the new version of Kubeinvaders. And this version is contains two new features, like the shuffle. In the web interface, there are not only the pods, but also the nodes that are moving randomly. So when you play to the game, you will see that you kill pods, but also you stress worker nodes of Kubernetes. So you can see some pod killed, but also new pods that are deployed by the scheduler. And these pods are particular pods that are Kubeinvaders Chaos. Okay. This Kubeinvader Chaos is a particular pod that launch stress ng process. If you want, you can customize this code. Is a Chaos node is a script that launch this kind of job. You can customize it for make a custom Chaos experiment for your needs. Okay, so if you want with S, you can disable the shuffle. Maybe. The other important things is collecting metrics. So you can see the experiment that we have just made, and there is a dashboard for the killed pod for namespace, total killed pods, the Chaos job against node. This is important because are the count per nodes. Okay, and this is the count per namespace. This seems a duplicate, but it's not a duplicate because this is the Kubeinvaders demo stressed by the Kubeinvaders instance in this namespace. So are two different instances of Kubeinvaders. Okay, so that's it. Thank you very much. And if you have some questions, please tell me.
Hey, Eugenio, that was a wonderful session, and your demo actually made it too very clear. So yeah, I mean, a great session. I'll head towards the questions that we got from audience in the Q&A tab. So just a minute. So here's a question from Amit. There are obvious benefits in making chaos a fun activity. Can you share some experiences or your user stories of fun session yielding some very important bug or issue?
I don't know. I think that some problem that you can have in production, you can avoid this problem if you, before to go in production, you perform some chaos engineering sessions. So I have some story to tell you, but are not a fun story. Okay. The other question, I have heard a lot about experiments in positive or disaster. Maybe I don't know. I created this project just for fun, because I think that this kind of discipline is important, but I think make this with a little bit of fun is bad. So, okay.
Okay. I guess there are no other questions. Let me just quickly look into the feed as well. Okay. So if you have any other questions, folks, whoever is attending, you can actually join our Slack channel as well, where Eugenio is available. So it's a dedicated session Slack channel. You can actually ask questions to him there as well, or you can also join the log session, like the networking area. He will be there as well. So thank you so much for joining in, folks. Again, thanks a lot, Eugenio. It was a great session, and
thank you. See you. Bye.
Bye.